What is up, Pillars of Salt? I'm Sterling. Welcome to Table Salt EDH, a channel dedicated to providing you Commander gameplay between four friends that would rather take revenge on each other than make logical gameplay decisions. If you were looking for a Commander gameplay channel where four friends play Commander and get along, this is absolutely the wrong place to be. If this is something you're interested in, go sideways on those like and subscribe buttons below. Before every game, we'll get a deck breakdown from each player and we'll find out how they're feeling from the last game. Then we'll jump into the game, which will be narrated by one of us each episode, and afterwards we'll break everything down and see how everyone did. In this episode, we are going to be showcasing our new commanders from the Walking Dead Secret Lair set. Joking, wanted to make sure the guys in the crew were listening. We're actually going to be testing out our new commanders from Zendikar Rising. Alright guys, no more talking from me. Let's hear from the crew and then get into the game.
Hey everybody! Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Table Salt EDH, where you're here to, of course, root for your boy, right? Let's be honest. No one's here to root for Sterling or for Dom, and especially not Keith. You're here to root for your boy, Mr. Sean, who today is going to be going with a mono green commander, Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. The goal of the deck is to play a bunch of non-token creatures so that you can take advantage of Ashaya turning them into forest lands to trigger some landfall abilities, synergize, that draws you cards, gives other creatures trample, and then buff Ashaya into ungodly amounts so that eventually you can just swing in for the win. I think my only personal goal would be to make sure that Keith doesn't win. Can't go 2-0, back-to-back wins in the start of our season? No. Can't let that happen. If he's not salty, then I'm salty. And then if I'm not salty, Dom's salty. And then if Dom's not salty, Sterling's salty. It just, we're all salty here. You're here for salt. Don't lie to yourselves.
So for my Zendikar Rising Commander, I got to pick number 1 in the draft. And that's right, I picked the best commander out of the entire set, Omnath, Locus of Creation. Domnath playing Omnath. I built this as a 4-color lands matter deck. You know what that means. Lands, land ramp, land fall, big creatures that like to get boosted by land. I'm going to be getting triggers off of Omnath. I'm going to be trying to play more lands per turn. I'm going to try to play lands on Keith's turn, especially Keith's turn. On Sterling's turn, on Sean's turn, especially Sean's turn. I'm going to be trying to protect him as much as possible too. I can flicker him to get his ability going again. However, he's going to become a big target. You know, he's the big shiny commander. So I have to try and balance my usage of him with protecting him. That's going to be my big concern this week, making sure I can use Omnath and get him going. Now, it's going to make me arch enemy. I know it. I know how this always goes. The guys like to look at me because I get a big board state early on and they go, oh, look at him. But now, I'm going to have to try and fight through that. It's going to be a bit of a political game, but I think I can do it. Because there's one thing I've learned over the years playing with this group, it's that sometimes you just got to own up to it and be king of Salt Mountain.
Back, Salty Stallions. This is Keith, back again, and this week I brewed around the new Boros commander from Zendikar Rising, Akiri, Fearless Voyager. The goal of this deck is simple. I've got creatures, I've got equipments. I'm going to attach the equipments to the creatures, and I'm going to fucking attack everybody. I'm going to attack Sterling, I'm going to attack Sean, I'm going to attack Dom, and I'm going to attack them as often as possible. Hopefully all in one turn. That way I can draw thousands and thousands of cards from Akiri's ability. Actually, I can only draw 3 per turn, so if I could draw 3 per turn, I'll be a happy guy. So I won last game, so I'm already the arch enemy. I'm playing Boros, so naturally I'm the underdog. Ugh, it just doesn't look good for me. But fortunately, Dom is playing Omnath, which is an insanely strong commander. So I think my only hope for this game is that he gets all the hate while I get to lay low, equip my cute little creatures, and out of nowhere, hopefully I can draw into something that will just win me the game.
What's up everyone? Today I am playing Phylath, World Sculptor? We're gonna go with Phyllis. Phyllis is basically an Avenger of Zendikar with a slight differentiation. Phyllis is going to be legendary. Big surprise there, allowing me to play it as my commander. And its landfall ability, rather than pumping every creature when a land enters, it pumps one creature by 4+1/+1 counters. What I decided to do was not go in the right or correct direction at all with this deck because I wanted to do something different than everybody else's land matters. So I did a big damage matters deck, which I can tell you after playtesting is the wrong way to go. Don't do it. I'm already salty. I feel like I got shafted on the draft. Dom got Omnath, the only good commander from this set, so the rest of us got the scraps, and I was like 3rd or 4th on the draft, so I got stuck with Phylath. But me and Phylath are going to do some work. We got a lot of stuff in here that deals mass damage to everybody, either when creatures enter the field, or things like Star of Extinction or Blasphemy that deal damage directly to creatures on the field. And my deck is full of things that let me deal damage to everybody or to all creatures and lets me benefit from that. I think I'm gonna drag my feet for a little bit and then just kind of sit there, chill out. Everybody dukes it out with their super powerful decks, and then hopefully I can deal some mass damage and surprise everybody with a big play for the win.
What's going on, Salt fam? Quick disclaimer before we jump into the game here. Our play group has always played games with the Monarch. Monarch is determined by whoever deals combat damage successfully first. That player then draws a card at the end of their turn until another player deals combat damage to them. Alrighty, Salt fam, let's get into the game. Keith starts the game by dropping a command tower. He taps it to play a Fervent Champion. He then plays a Paradise Mantle for free due to its 0 mana cost. He then equips it to Fervent Champion and then rolls a die to determine attacks. Forgetting that a die can be split into thirds, he chooses Sean and Sterling for even and odds. He rolls, completely forgets who his odds or evens, and then attacks Sterling regardless. Keith passes the turn, and Sean starts his first turn of the game. He drops the coolest forest you've ever seen, taps it into an Arbor Elf, and with nothing else to do, passes the turn. To start his turn, Sterling drops a mountain, and then in a parallel universe, taps it for a Soul Ring, and then taps that for an Arcane Signet. But this is our universe. It's a sad universe, so he passes the turn. Dom, to start his turn, wanting so bad to be like Keith, plays a command tower. He then taps it into an Exploration, and for an additional land per turn, drops a forest. He then passes. To start his second turn, Keith plays a Plains. He then taps the Plains and a command tower to play an Arcane Signet. He suspiciously evaluates his board with only 2 mana available to him, and then taps the Arcane Signet and the Fervent Champion to play SRAM! He then passes the turn. Sean, to start his turn, drops into one of those really cool forests. He taps 2 to play a Sakura Tribe Elder. He looks at Keith's board, jealously eyeing the little kitty he's got up there, indicating he's the Monarch, realizes he has no chance of getting it, passes the turn. To start his second turn, Sterling drops a forest, then pays 2 to cast a Rampant Growth to go fetch up a mountain. Dom then gets caught slacking.
Yeah, so but when we play a spell, don't just play it and go straight to our graveyard. Put it on the field, let it have its moment, and then put it away.
You're welcome for catching that for you, Dom. I thought you were the game director.
Sorry, it's coming up on my turn, so I started looking at my cards. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it.
I'll take $5 via Zoom.
Sterling then passes the turn. Dom starts his turn by tapping 1 to cast an Amulet of Vigor. He then plays a Croson Verge and an island as his extra land per turn. He taps the command tower to cast a Burgeoning and then passes the turn. Keith starts his turn by dropping a mountain. Dom inconsiderately plays his own island Plains.
I'm never playing lands again.
Plains.
Is that a Plains or an island?
Plains. I apologize. I am completely fucking out of it today.
Redo your turn.
You're going to have to start beating off before we
I'm just
play.
kidding, Tom.
I'm going to play a Plains.
Keith taps 3 for the Sword of Feast and Famine. He equips it to Fervent Champion for free, thanks to Fervent Champion's ability. He then taps 1 to equip Paradise Mantle onto SRAM, and draws a card to SRAM's trigger. He attacks Sean with the Fervent Champion, and Dom with SRAM. Sean sacrifices his Sakura Tribe Elder in response to go search up a forest. The Sword of Feast and Famine triggers, Sean discards a Brawn, giving all of his creatures trample as long as it's in the graveyard and he controls a forest, and Keith untaps all of his lands. He taps 3 to cast Akiri, and then passes the turn, drawing to Monarch. Sean plays another one of those really cool looking forests, then taps 4 to cast Goreclaw. He passes the turn. Sterling plays a forest, then taps 2 to cast Farseek. He goes and gets a mountain, plays it tapped, and then passes the turn. Dom starts his turn by complaining about all of our cussing. I guess he just is tired of editing out all the bleeps.
Maybe a little less cussing.
A little less censored.
Make it more purposeful when you do.
That's like half my vocabulary.
Yeah, just because you said that, I'm only gonna cuss.
That sounds about right. All right.
He then taps 4 to cast Omnath.
Comes, boys.
Boom! Omnath.
Drawing a card. And with nothing else to do, passes the turn. Keith taps his Arcane Signet to cast a Sigarda's Aid. He then taps 2 to cast a Sword of the Animist, and attaches it to Akiri for free, thanks to a Sigarda's Aid. Keith 100% misses a draw here to SRAM, but continues going. He taps 1 for Explorer Scope, and then attaches it to Fervent Champion for free, thanks to Sigarda's Aid. This time, he doesn't forget his SRAM trigger, and draws a card. He then attacks Sterling with Akiri and Dom with Fervent Champion. Salt Lords, we got a lot of triggers here, so hold on to your butts. Keith stacks his triggers as so. Dom discards Mina and Den to the Sword of Feast and Famine, and then Keith untaps all of his lands. Keith's Explorer's Scope then triggers. He reveals the top card of his library. It is not a land, and he keeps it there. His Akiri then triggers, and he draws 2 cards because he attacked with 2 equipped creatures. The Sword of the Animist then triggers, and Keith goes and fetches up a mountain. He wishes he had stacked this trigger first, so that he could have untapped this mountain with the Sword of Feast and Famine. Keith then taps 2 to play a Talisman of Dominance, and then passes the turn, drawing another card thanks to Monarch. Sean starts his turn by tapping 2 forests. He then hits the Arbor Elf to untap a forest, taps it again, and then casts Ashaya. It costs 2 less thanks to Goreclaw's ability. Ashaya is a 7/7 due to the 7 lands that Sean has out on the field, 3 of them being creatures, thanks to Ashaya's ability. He swings Goreclaw at Keith. Keith declares no blockers, and Sean is now the Monarch.
He makes me the monarch. Little fish do
Draw me cards. Sean passes his turn and draws a card. Sterling then preps to play the most explosive turn of his life. He drops a forest, taps 3 for the Hornet Nest, and then passes the turn. Dom plays a Plains, and then taps 2 to tap and sack Crozenverge to bring out a forest and a Plains into play, untapped thanks to the Amulet of Vigor. Omnath then triggers 3 times, gaining Dom 4 life, dealing 4 damage to everyone, and now Dom has 4 mana floating. Dom then casts a Crucible of Worlds, and now he's a supercharged assault combo in place with the Crozenverge.
I'm gonna bring Crozenverge back from my graveyard
holy shit. This is real bad.
as my second land for turn.
Real bad.
Here's the problem with this.
I don't want to hear about your problems.
I have to flicker him to get the second set to redo it.
Oh, are you okay,
I know,
Bob?
right?
Are you okay,
I feel so
Papa?
bad for you.
Want me to get you a ice cream cone?
So, yes, please.
He then plays an Arcane Signet.
Dom, with your ultimate power, you have to keep Keith in check. Keith, with your power, you gotta keep Dom in check.
At the start of Keith's turn, Dom rudely taps 2 to tap and sack Crozenverge to go get a forest and a Plains, triggering Omnath twice.
I hate how you're doing this on my turn, taking up my time. So fucking disrespectful, dude.
Sorry.
Which means we need to fucking end him. Let's kill him. Gaining him 4 life and 4 floating mana. Keith taps 2 for a Stoneforge Mystic. He goes and tutors up a Sunforger, and then taps 3 to cast it. He attaches it to Fervent Champion, drawing, thanks to SRAM. He then attacks Dom with Fervent Champion, and Sean mistakenly lets Keith pity attack him to draw a card with Akiri's ability. Keith draws 2 cards. Hold on to your butts again, Salt Lords, because we got a lot of Keith triggers coming your way. First, the Sword of the Animist puts a Plains onto the battlefield. Dom mistakenly plays a Crozenverge, thinking that Crucible of Worlds and Burgeoning allows him to do this. This triggers Omnath a 3rd time, dealing every other player 4 damage. The Sword of Feast and Famine then triggers, Dom discards, and Keith untaps all his lands. Then we have the Explorer Scope. Keith reveals the top card of his library. It is not a land, so he leaves it there. Keith taps 2 to unequip Sunforger and tutors up a Chaos Warp, targeting Dom's Burgeoning. Burgeoning is exiled, and Dom flips the top card of his library to reveal an Undergrowth Champion. He puts it into play. Keith reattaches the Sunforger to Fervent Champion, and then discards Monastery Swift Spear to hand size. He passes the turn. Sean plays a Forest, taking Ashaya to 8. The group looks over Dom's board, wondering how they're going to pick it apart. Dom, not happy he's being talked about, sacrifices his Croson Verge to trigger Omnath twice more, gaining 4 life and 4 mana. Sean then taps 4 to cast a Skyshroud Claim, searching up for 2 tapped forests, taking Ashaya to 10. He then swings Ashaya and Goreclaw at Dom, triggering Goreclaw, giving his creatures +1/+1 and trample. In response, Keith unequips his Sunforger and tutors up a Dispatch, exiling the Undergrowth Champion because Keith controls 3 or more artifacts. Dom moves to blocks Goreclaw with Omnath, and takes 11 damage from Ashaya. Sean then passes. Sterling starts his turn by tapping 6 to cast Subterranean Tremors. He deals 6 damage to creatures without flying and destroys all artifacts. In response, a very angry Keith taps for 3 white, taking 1 from the Talisman, and uses Akiri's ability to unequip artifacts from SRAM, Akiri, and Fervent Champion to give them all indestructible. All artifacts are destroyed, and Ashaya is the only creature without indestructible to survive. When Sterling's Hornet Nest dies, it gives him 6 1/1 insects with flying and death touch. Sterling passes. Dom starts his turn by drawing, and then plays a Gaia's Cradle as his land per turn, which he then tries to mulligan. Mulligan! Can you believe this guy? He tries to mulligan! The exact same type of play that Sean tried to mulligan last game, but he was all like, no, you can't do that, we're officially recording, you can't mulligan. Can you believe this guy? Angry reacts in the comment section, please. Dom then pays 6 to recast Omnath. He then taps 3 and sacrifices a forest to cast Harrow, doing exactly what he needs right now, and puts 2 more lands into play. He passes the turn. Keith starts his turn by playing a Sacred Foundry untapped, taking 2 damage. He then taps 3 to cast an Ironclad Slayer, returning the Sword of Feast and Famine from his graveyard back to his hand. He then casts the Sword of Feast and Famine from his hand, drawing a card to SRAM, and then attaches it to Fervent Champion. He swings Fervent Champion at Sterling, who discards a card, and Keith untaps all his lands. He then draws a card to the Akiri trigger. Keith feigns passing his turn, but then taps 1 for Soaring. Then, he really passes his turn. Sean untaps, and then taps 3 for the Llanowar tribe. He then taps 5 to cast Return of the Wild Speaker, drawing 8 cards since Ashaya is an 8/8. He then drops a forest as his land per turn, and then passes. After Sean discards to hand size, Sterling pays 4 to cast Defense of the Hearth to start his turn. Sterling then casts Collective Voyage, totaling 8 after everyone greedily pays into it to ramp their asses off. Everyone then goes searches for 8 basic lands and puts them into play. 8 basic lands. 8 basic lands! Is this a joke? Has anyone ever seen this card played before? I've never even heard of this card. We all just went and got 8 basic lands. This is the mono green player's dream. How did this even happen? Where are we right now? Oh, wow. Well, Dom gains 4 life, 4 floating mana, and deals everyone 4 damage to the Omnath triggers. Dom starts his turn by untapping, and then top decking an Omnath Locus of the Rage, which he then taps 7 to cast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you need draw engines in your deck. Look at all that mana that Dom's got to play with and all the infinite combo possibilities that are probably lingering somewhere in his deck. But you know what? He can't play him. He's got nothing in his hand. Nothing to play, no spells to cast, no enchantments to trigger. Draw cards, ladies and gentlemen. Draw your cards. Dom passes. Keith taps 3 to cast Anger of the Gods, dealing 3 damage to all creatures and exiling the ones that have died this way. He then taps 6 to play Aurelia the War Leader to the dismay of the other players. He then taps Soul Ring to cast Lightning Greaves, and then taps 4 to cast Helm of the Host, equipping it to Aurelia, followed by the Greaves. He then enters an infinite amount of combat steps and swings in with a bazillion flying hasty Aurelias to take the game. Alright, GG.
I mean, if you guys weren't booty tickled about this. I was 100% going to win next turn. I was going to deal like each of you 80 damage.
Oh yeah, I was probably going to win this turn too.
Oh, so that's why you're so freaking disappointed.
All right, well,
Yep.
I'm going to start disassembling my setup out of rage, so...
I was nowhere near winning because, I just was getting lands.
Hey, dude,
and
hey, you
shit.
know what? To be fair, Dom, that game I did not campaign as hard against you as I have in the past. I did.
You were campaigning pretty
I
hard.
no, not really, dude. Not really.
Hey guys, thanks again for checking out our second game. Just a couple housekeeping items here. If you've made it this far and you want to leave a comment, up to the first 20 people who leave a comment, just say something like your favorite commander or what you think we should build around for future episodes. We'll send you one of these bad boys. It's our little logo on a sticker. Did you guys hear that? What is this?
Stickers.
You'll get one of those. One more important item that we should totally add here is that Dom said out loud that if we got to 1,000 subscribers, he would get this logo, our logo, tattooed on him. And he has no other tattoos. So our logo would be his very first. So if you want that to happen, hit that subscribe. Be sure to check out our upcoming videos. First one being a player discussions video where we all talk about our Zendikar Rising game, see how it went, see where the salt levels rose. Second, we're going to be doing an episode we call Brine the 99, where we do a deck tech and go over each and every play of the deck and what is prone to make us the most salty. Tune in next week for a Halloween special where we're all playing spooky commander decks. See you next time.